there, I'm Esmeralda. I love spooky stories, especially on the radio. Wanna listen with me? It's time for Tales to Sleep By. Close your eyes and drift away.
Good evening. You've found your way to Tales to Sleep By, where the night never truly ends and the stories never truly sleep. Enjoy your rest if you can.
Trouble sleeping? Do nightmares nip at your heels like feral children? Then it's time to try Ether Mist Sleep Spray. Just one spritz on your pillow and you'll drift away like a feather on the winds of oblivion. Used by housewives, train conductors, and the deeply unsettled. Sleep deep, dream dark, and don't forget to leave a window open just in case. Ether Mist, because you're tired of reality.
In a temple hidden among ancient pines, 5 brothers trained in silence, but silence would not last. When the sickness came, it didn't crawl, it crept inside. This is a tale of discipline against death, chi against chaos. Enter now the master of the hollow palm.
The wind whispered through the trees of Jade Hollow, curling between bamboo stalks and stone walkways like breath from an unseen ancestor. Dawn had not yet broken, and already the students of the temple moved as one, bodies flowing in perfect rhythm. Breath matched to form, every strike and step bound by centuries of tradition. Master Chu watched them from the courtyard's edge, arms folded within his sleeves, face unreadable. A man carved from patience and precision. Chu had long since traded glory for guidance. He no longer sought victory in combat, only clarity in teaching. Again, he said calmly, and the students resumed their form. Among them was young Lei, quick to move, slow to center. He was eager, loyal, and entirely unaware of the shadow curling toward them from the valley below. Later that morning, Brother Shan approached with news of the village. The apricots have arrived. A goat gave birth. They say it's a lucky sign. Chu nodded. Tell them to hold their stances until their legs tremble. They'll hate you by midday, Shan smirked. Then they'll have learned something. The temple ran like water that day. Meditation, drills, shared meals, silent study. The hours flowed peacefully. But by afternoon, the current shifted. Jiang, one of the youngest initiates, collapsed during his third round of mountain forms. No cry, no warning. He simply crumpled, like his bones had vanished beneath him. Chu was beside him instantly. The boy was pale, cold, his breathing shallow, no wounds, no bruises, only a strange stillness beneath his skin. too still. He was coughing this morning, Ray offered nervously. Maybe he's just sick. Chu said nothing. He looked toward the hills, toward the village half hidden beyond the trees. The wind carried a scent now, metallic, rotten. That night, Xian was placed in the infirmary and monitored closely. The other students were ordered to keep their distance. But silence bred questions, and fear began to stir like ash beneath the floorboards. Sometime after midnight, Chu heard the ball crash. He moved quickly, barefoot down the temple hall, robe trailing behind him. The infirmary door stood open. Inside, the bed was empty. Scrolls were knocked from shelves. A bowl of water glistened in shattered pieces. Then, scraping, dragging, Chu turned. The boy was at the far end of the hallway, staggering like a drunk. Eyes pale and unfocused, mouth slack. Blood ringed his lips. Xian, Chu said softly. The boy lunged. Instinct met training. Chu sidestepped, redirected, brought the boy to the ground with minimal force. Brother Shen, he called down the corridor. Shen, Lei, and another rushed in. The struggle was frantic. Xian bit, scratched, thrashed without language. Lei cried out as teeth found his arm. Shen was clawed across the cheek, but together they subdued the boy, binding him in temple sashes and laying him back into the infirmary. This time, with the door locked from the outside. Later, as Shen tended his wound and Lei stared at his own bandaged forearm, no one spoke of what they had seen in Xian's eyes. It was not pain, it was absence. By morning, smoke rose from the village, a black thread against the grey sky. Shen was the first to investigate. He took two with him, Fen, a senior disciple, and a young apprentice healer. Chu gave his orders plainly. Do not touch anyone. Speak only if spoken to. Return before nightfall. He watched them disappear into the trees. Inside the temple, Xian remained tied down. He didn't speak. He didn't scream. He only nodded. His lips chewed the air. His nails darkened. His flesh turned grey. Lei sat outside the door, silent, his wound freshly wrapped. By midday, Shen returned alone. He was breathing hard, his robe torn and dust-covered. The village is burning, he said. Not just one house, half the homes. People are attacking each other. Chu asked only one question. Were you bitten? Shen shook his head. No, but when he tried to help a girl, she bit his neck. He didn't make it. And the apprentice? Gone, lost in the woods. That night, the temple gates were barred, lanterns dimmed. The youngest students gathered in the prayer hall. clutching one another, sensing that something sacred was shifting beneath their feet. Chu addressed them softly. There is sickness beyond these walls. We do not yet understand it, but we know this. It spreads through blood, through bites. For now, we stay, we protect each other. When Shen began to show symptoms the next day, discoloration in the wound, fog in his speech, he volunteered for isolation. Chu granted it with silent sorrow. The storehouse was cleared, padded with mats. Shen entered without protest. "If I feel it take me," he said, "I'll do what must be done." Chu placed a blade at the threshold. "Then you will do so with honor." By the second night, new sounds emerged in the dark. Footsteps in the forest, dozens, maybe more. Voices called out, frantic, alive. In the aftermath of the attack, temple grounds grew still again, but it was not peace. It was the stillness after a storm. When the trees are broken and the wind holds its breath, the dead were burned, the wounded were set apart. The woman with the bite, her name was Lian, had been among those who arrived at the gate. She hadn't known the wound on her shoulder was from a bite, or perhaps she had hoped it wasn't. Chu saw it immediately and made the decision without cruelty. She was placed in the storehouse with Shen, who remained lucid but fading. Each morning, Chu brought incense and water. Each evening, he stayed longer than necessary, listening to Shen speak softly of memories, childhood in the ice fields, his first day at the temple, the time he lost his sandal in the koi pond and claimed it was a fish who stole it. He was not afraid. "Lian is sleeping," he whispered one night. "She stares at the wall now, doesn't blink much. She still breathes, but it's shallow, too shallow." He looked at Q, not with panic, but with aching honesty. "If I go that way, I'll stop myself. I won't let her hurt anyone." Chu nodded. "You are still yourself," he said. "And while you are not alone." Shen smiled faintly, closing his eyes. "I'll be ready." Outside, the survival strain, gone were the fluid, meditative forms of tradition. Now movements were shorter, sharper, built to survive. Master Chu taught them to use what they had: broom handles, fire pokers, rice flails. They learned to aim for the skull, to never hesitate. "They were once your neighbors," Chu told them, "but they are not anymore. Do not forget their faces, but do not let their face stop your hand." Lei trained hardest of all. Though the bite on his forearm had not turned dark, he carried the fear like a blade beneath the skin. He never spoke of it, but he woke often at night, his eyes always watched the tree line. On the second evening, the groaning returned, but not scattered, not distant, a herd. They came in numbers now, drawn by the scent of the living, by the echo of fire and steel. Dozens, maybe more. Chu gathered the defenders in the courtyard just as the sun sank behind the hills. We meet them here, he said, not with fear, with breath. Each person nodded, hands gripping their weapons. The gates were not opened this time, they were broken. The first wave surged through like a flood. Red eyes, gnashing teeth, hands like claws. But the line held. They had trained for this. They had become this. Chu fought at the center, crescent blade whirling in arcs of silver and red. He moved like a wind between rooftops and walls, drawing the horde's attention, then vanishing again. Lei moved with practiced form now, staff crashing against bone, sidestepping, bleeding, pressing forward. His fear burned away with each blow. There was only motion, only rhythm. By midnight, the ground was slick with blood and ash. They had won, but not without loss. Shen was found near the prayer hall, eyes closed, blade still in his lap. Peaceful, still, he had kept his promise. Lian never rose. They buried the fallen with care, in silence. And when the forest grew still again, the survivors, no fewer, now harder, stood beneath the stars and watched smoke curl into the heavens. At sunrise, Chu lit the incense at the main altar. The sickness may return, he said. It may change. It may wait. He turned toward them, his voice calm but unyielding. But so will we. As long as we draw breath, we train, we protect. And they bowed. That evening, Lei sat beside the koi pond, the water still reflecting fading orange clouds. His wound had healed, but something in him had not. Master, he asked softly, what do we do now? Chu sat beside him, folding his hands into his sleeves. Now, he said, we train, and as the first wind of evening passed through the temple gates, cool and clean and free of rot, Master Q closed his eyes and listened.
The temple still stands, but it remembers. Breath still moves through its halls, but it moves differently now. For once you fight the dead, you never train the same again.
Ladies and gentlemen, are your bones feeling brittle? Is your mind foggy as a London graveyard? Then reach for Dr. Brimstone's all-healing tonic syrup, now with twice the questionable ingredients. It's got roots, it's got herbs, and it might even have electricity. One spoonful in the morning and another at dusk. And you'll be cured of everything from melancholy to mild haunting. Dr. Brimstone's tonic syrup. It burns because it works. What's the shame of the skin? But not anymore. Say goodbye to those unsightly lumps with Widow Murphy's wart remover, a caustic concoction passed down from the old country and only slightly illegal. It peels, it stings, and by morning, your wart's history. Now with a new cinnamon scent, Widow Murphy's wart remover, because beauty should hurt.
He was a master of control until the wild bit back. Now, in the mountains where the snow falls quiet, a new kind of breath stirs. Not every predator wears claws on the outside. This is the wolf's palm.
The snow had come early to the northern reaches of the Yunlin Mountains. Bitter wind coiled through pine branches like unseen serpents, and every breath steamed in the air like smoke from a restless spirit. In these forgotten peaks stood the Temple of the Hollow Palm, a sanctuary for martial discipline and quiet reflection. Master Wen walked alone beneath the trees. Each morning before sunrise, he left the temple to train his breath in solitude. He believed the soul sharpened best where the wild things roamed, beyond the stone walls, where instinct whispered and nature answered without hesitation. He moved barefoot through the snow, robes tucked and sleeves tight. His movements were slow, deliberate, hands cutting arcs through the cold like ink strokes on rice paper. He exhaled, inhaled, listened. The trees whispered. A distant rustle. He stilled. Then he saw it, a shape between the trees. A wolf crouched low. Its coat was patchy, gray-black, clumped with wet snow. Its eyes gleamed, not golden, but cloudy, like frozen milk. It did not growl. It simply watched him. Wen lowered his stance, not with fear, but reverence. "You are far from the lower forests," he said quietly, "and far too thin for early winter." The wolf moved one step closer. Its breath rasped, its ribs heaved with each movement. Then, without sound, it leapt. Wen reacted as trained, sidestepped, redirected its weight midair. His palm struck the beast's side. It hit the ground with a yelp, but rolled quickly, teeth bared. Too fast. Wen tried to dissuade it with energy, projecting calm, what he had used on bears, even wild boars. But this thing did not respond. It launched again. This time, it reached him. Its teeth sank into his shoulder. He drove his elbow down into its spine and threw it off, stumbling back, blood seeping through his robes. The wolf fled, limping, vanishing into the snow-draped trees. Wen stood alone, heart racing. Pain bloomed in his arm, spreading like heat beneath his skin. He pressed his palm to the wound and dropped to one knee, breathing in rhythm. Slow, calm, present. He wrapped the wound and returned to the temple before daylight, saying nothing. He meditated. He drank ginger tea. He told himself it was only a bite. But that night the fever came. It coiled around his bones like fire in the marrow. He dreamt of running, not with legs, but on all fours, through trees, through snow, through blood. He woke before dawn, shirt clinging to his skin. But the wound? Gone. No swelling, no bruising, only faint scars, already closing. He rose, strangely energized. And when he moved through the temple gardens to begin his forms again, his steps were faster, his strikes sharper, and something in his breath felt deeper. Older. He said nothing. Not yet. Days passed. The bite was forgotten by all but Wen. His robes concealed the fading scar. His silence concealed the rest. He returned to teaching with a vigor that the students praised, though few could keep pace. They whispered among themselves, some in awe, others in unease. The master who once moved with stillness now moved with fire. Even the elders took note. "Wen's strength is returning," one said. "It's as though his bones have shed their age." Another replied, "Or perhaps something else has taken root in them." None dared say more. Wen's senses continued to sharpen. He could hear the insects burrow under bark. He could tell when a student's balance faltered by the creak in the floorboard. He trained alone each night in the forest, far beyond where the fires of the temple reached. But with every new gift came something darker. One evening, during sparring drills, a student named Hui struck harder than he should have, more a challenge than a mistake. Wen reacted without thought. He caught the boy's wrist, spun behind him, and struck the back of his shoulder with the flat of his palm. There was a crack. Hui crumpled to the floor, gasping. Silence. Everyone froze. Wen stepped back, blinking. His breath was steady, but his heart raced with a pulse that wasn't entirely human. He knelt beside the boy and spoke softly. I am sorry, Hui. I moved too fast. He helped the boy up. The arm was not broken, but bruised and shaking. Later, under closer inspection, they noticed a scratch beneath the bruise, thin, small, but festering. That night, Wen sat alone atop the temple roof, looking out over the valley. The moon was full. He could feel it beneath his skin, pulling at him like the tide against stone. The air was too warm, his robes too tight. He stripped down to his waist and let the night wind touch his back. He could feel it coming again, the change, but he didn't resist. He let it unfurl, his spine arched, joints realigning, muscles thickening. Fur crept across his arms. His fingers stretched, then curved, claws slipping through skin. His mouth ached, and when he opened it, a low growl rose from his throat, deep and pry. He returned before sunrise, breathless, body once more his own. He washed his face in the temple fountain. The reflection looking back at him was calm, controlled. But the eyes had changed. He would have to be careful. He wasn't ready to let this go. Not yet. Winter deepened. Snow pressed heavily on the temple's tiled roofs. Fires were kept burning around the clock, and the student's breath came in fog with every exhale. Despite the cold, Master Wen trained them harder than ever. The body stiffens in comfort, he told them. It must learn to move through hardship. They obeyed, though quietly, some began to question the shift in him. The man who once valued stillness now taught them to move like wind through branches, with speed over grace, aggression over restraint. And some whispered that at night they heard howling in the forest, too close, too strange to be wolves. One morning, Brother Lin approached Wen while the students meditated. I found deer tracks by the edge of the pine path, he said, but something hunted it. The snow was torn apart, blood everywhere, no meat left. Wen said nothing. I've walked those woods since I was a child, Lin continued. This was no bear, no tiger. Still, Wen didn't speak. His gaze remained on the students. Lin hesitated. The elders are concerned. Then they should meditate more. Lin looked at him sharply. I trained with you for 20 winters. I know your movements. I know your breath. Something's changed. Wen turned his head slowly. Change is not always corruption. Nor is it always progress. Their eyes met, an unspoken warning passing between them. That night the moon returned, round and full, and Wen returned to the forest. But something had changed. The hunger was growing harder to ignore. He could smell animals a mile away. He could feel the heartbeats of things beneath the snow. And now, the hunger wasn't content with rabbits or foxes. It wanted more. He resisted. He clawed at a fallen tree, roared into the sky, ran until his legs gave out and the wolf within him quieted. When he returned to the temple, barefoot and trembling, he found Lin waiting at the gate. "You were gone long," Lin said softly. "I needed air. You reek of blood." Wen looked at him. "And if I do, then you are no longer Master Wen." They stood in silence. Then Wen stepped past him. "Not yet," he whispered. "Not completely." By morning, Hui was sick. He thrashed in his bedding, muttering nonsense through cracked lips. His skin was slick with sweat, but beneath it, the veins along his neck had turned a sickly violet. The physician discovered the scratch under the bruise, small, but festering. Not natural, not fever. Transmission. The council met that night. Wen admitted everything. "I was bitten," he said. "I carry it. I have not harmed anyone since, but something passed through me, into Hui." "Then you are no longer master," they said. "I will leave," he replied. Before dawn, he vanished into the forest. Not to run, to train, to understand, and most of all, to master what lived inside him. Wen learned quickly. Each night he trained, not in scroll-bound forms, but in the wild shapes his body demanded. He let the beast emerge in stages, exploring what remained of himself beneath each transformation. He found limits and tested them. One night from the trees, a familiar voice. "I didn't come to condemn you," said Brother Lin. "Hui is changing. The council wants him gone." "Dead?" "They fear what he might become. They fear me. They fear what they don't understand." Wen turned slowly. "You always said the strength of a warrior wasn't in his power, but in his restraint. That was before I knew how good power feels. And now I see why it corrupts." Lin stepped closer. "If you can master this, not suppress it, not deny it, but truly master it, then you'll prove it can be done, that Hui can be saved." Wen looked to the stars and said nothing. But in that silence, a choice was made. At the temple, Hui stood in the courtyard, unbound, but trembling. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he said, "but it's in me. I can feel it." The council gathered, cloaked in cold and judgment. Before they could speak, a voice broke the silence. "Then we teach him to hold it back." Wen stepped through the temple gate, unarmed, unchanged, but strong. Gasps rose. Guards moved to intercept. Lin raised a hand. "Let him pass." Wen walked to Hui, placed a hand on the boy's chest. "Breath," he said. "Focus on that, not the fire, not the hunger." The boy obeyed. The tremor eased. Wen turned to the council. "Let me try. If I fail, you may end us both." They said nothing, but permission was given. Wen trained the boy in secret. Forms designed to channel the beast, breathing to steady the pulse, pacing to tire the hunger. Bit by bit, Hui returned to himself. And then, the full moon came. The courtyard filled with firelight. Hui stood in its center. Wen stood beside him. And before the temple's watching eyes, they changed. Not into monsters, into something new. Not the end of man, not the rise of beast, but a union, a choice. Two warriors, clawed, howling, controlled. Still men, still themselves. The elders bowed. So did the students. Wen remained at the temple, not as master, as guardian. And each full moon they trained together, holding back what once ruled them, teaching others how to breathe in darkness, how to fight, without becoming the thing they feared. And above it all, the mountain wind howled, not in warning, in recognition.
He did not destroy the beast, he trained it. In every growl, a breath, in every claw, restraint. For the wolf who does not lose himself is the one you never see coming.
Tonight's program is brought to you by Stormlight Pomade, the only hair tonic guaranteed to hold through fog, rain, even a ghost ship attack. Yes, sir, just a dab of Stormlight and you'll look like a captain, even if you're going down with a ship. Ask your local barber for the bright blue tin. That's Stormlight Pomade. Shine with confidence, sync with style.
If you're still here, I give up. Enjoy some spooky, soothing music.